Welcome into Mavericks Today. I am Jeffrey Cooperstein, and guys, Mavericks Today is officially in panic mode. Hit the panic buttons. The Mavericks have lost 5 out of 6 after winning 7 straight, and it's an absolute disaster at the American Airlines Center right now. We're going to get into it here in just a moment, but oh boy, we have a lot to talk about. It was a disaster. But before we get started, how likely are you to recommend Mavericks Today to a friend, to a colleague, to someone else? Scale it from 1 to 10 down in the comment section. 1 being you absolutely hate Harrison and I and you think we're the worst people on earth. 10 being you think we're the best people on earth and you want to watch every single show and every single minute that we do. So scale it 1 to 10 down in the comment section. And without further ado, let's get into today's show. All right, we have to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it because Tyler Smith, who is the biggest Mavericks hater, is my producer on today's show. It was a bad night last night, man. The Mavericks lost to the Indiana Pacers 137 to 120. And after it, the Mavs apparently had a team meeting where a lot of the head honchos, so to speak, on the leadership council of the Mavericks talked. You had Markieff Morris, who we'll get to that in just a second because that's a little crazy. Jason Kidd and Kyrie Irving all speaking after the game. And it took Jason Kidd almost 90 minutes to come speak to the media after the game. But what I wanted to hit on Markieff Morris because why is he the voice of reason in the locker room? He doesn't play. He's the 15th guy on the bench. Well, the 14th guy now that you signed A.J. Lawson. I get that Keefe is a vet in this league, and he's been there and done that on winning teams, but is he the guy that really needs to be stepping up? Luka obviously also said his piece, but he's more of a lead by example. He's not really a vocal guy. You know, the whole language barrier and that kind of stuff. But, man, this team needs to have something, and hopefully their closed-doors team-only meeting last night helped him out because, boy, it is not looking good over in Mavs land. Let's take a look at some stats from last night's game. The counting numbers look good for Luka, obviously. 39 points, 10 rebounds, 11 assists. Only 4 of 13 from 3. It was his 3rd consecutive triple-double. I believe he is I want to say he's the 4th player in NBA history to have 3 straight 30-point triple-doubles. And he's 0-3 in those, so it doesn't really matter because all that matters is the wins and the losses right now. While Luka's doing everything he can on the offensive end, this team has quite literally been the worst team in the NBA on the defensive end for some time now, and we'll get to that in just a moment. Solid night for Luka. Obviously, he even admitted after the game that he just wanted the win and didn't care about anything else. Kyrie Irving, 23 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 8 of 19 from the field. He's been cold from 3, too, for the last 3 or 4 games, starting with that game against the Boston Celtics, where it was unequivocally the worst game of his season for the Mavericks so far. He hasn't been able to shoot the 3 at all, really. And it's kind of an alarming trend that he's kind of trying to take shots and he's trying to force shots that aren't really there. Now, he made 2 of his 3 threes in the fourth quarter when the Mavs were trying to mount some sort of a fake comeback when they cut the lead down to like 11 or so and they forced Rick Carlisle into a timeout. But they need to get Kyrie going if this team wants to go anywhere. And just, I would say, 2 weeks ago when the Mavs were on that win streak, Kyrie was looking like his old self. He was looking like a top 20 player in the league. He was looking like a true Robin to Luka's Batman that was going to take this team deep into the playoffs. And now everything has crumbled just so quickly. Daniel Gafford, another good game from him. 16 points, 10 boards. I've been clamoring for him to play more lately, and I think it was kind of reflected in this performance. Now I'll say this. The Mavs didn't do a good job on Miles Turner again. He had 20 points in the first half after having his season high the other night when the Mavericks lost to the Pacers in Indiana. But Gafford gives them the pick-and-roll presence that Luka desperately needs, and he's been awesome in that pick-and-roll with Luka, and he's a guy that the Mavericks are going to have to rely on if they're to turn this thing around, both on the offensive and defensive end. They're going to need his rebounding because this team's really struggling rebounding the basketball as well, and hopefully that they can get it going there with Daniel Gafford. Tim Hardaway Jr., there's nothing even more to say at this point. It's just 6 points, another 2 of 8 from the field. It was 2 of 5 from 3, so it's technically 40%, which is fine. But the brother stinks, man. It's time to get him out of this rotation. Dante Exum probably deserves the minutes over him. I don't even know if Jaden Hardy solves the problem, but it would at the very least be something different. And I think that the Mavericks need something different if they're to get out of this rut. Like, I was talking to my dad last night, and should the Mavericks just put Omax Prosper and put Markieff into the rotation for a game and see what happens? At the very least, you know those guys are going to play hard, even if they don't play well, I know the game is a little too rich for Omax. It's a little too rich for AJ Lawson right now, but at a point, you have to try something different in order to get you out of a rut. Maybe it's those guys that'll help him do that. Derek Lively, poor game last night, got into foul trouble, was really ineffective. I think he played less than 10 minutes here. Let me double check. He played 15 minutes. He got into foul trouble early and was rendered ineffective more or less because he couldn't guard Miles Turner either. So not a great game from Lively, but they're going to have to find something there. They did find Gafford, and it's going to be more of a center by committee. We can talk about Maxi Kleber as well, and he's the one that Kidd has relied on to basically close games as of late in the fourth quarter because he feels that Kleber is the most athletic defender of those three. Is that the right decision? Who's to say? But he does trust Maxi the most. I don't think Maxi was much better from the field either because he was 0 of 3 from 3. He's not doing anything on the offensive end, and when he's not guarding anyone, what is he really out there for? Since the All-Star break, the Mavericks have quite literally been the worst defensive team in the NBA with a defensive rating of 126.0. Oh boy, that's bad. The Washington Wizards are a better defensive team right now, but you look at the other three teams that are in there, it's the Lakers, the Kings, and the Sixers. The Lakers and the Kings are teams that the Mavericks are competing with right now in the Western Conference to try to avoid the play-in. I believe the Mavs are a half game above the Lakers right now in the standings. We know it's an offensive league, but at some point you have to get a stop in order to win a basketball game, and the Mavericks just haven't been able to do that right now. So the defensive end has been a real problem, and it translates to the offensive end because they can't put consecutive possessions together, more or less. So it's not good right now. Mavs have lost 5 of 6. What do you think is the biggest problem for the Mavericks right now? I put this out on Community. A lot of you said it was coaching. Do you think it's the front office? Do you think it's the ownership with the transition from Mark Cuban to the Adelsons? Do you think it's Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving not playing well enough on the defensive end? Let me know down in the comments what you think the Mavs' biggest problem is right now. Win or lose, we have you covered on all things Mavericks, so subscribe. We have you covered with the latest news, the latest rumors, game analysis, anything that's going on inside the Dallas Mavericks. Myself, Harrison Graham, will have you covered all throughout the rest of the season and the offseason. Stay locked in. It's youtube.com/MavericksTV. Revisiting this discussion from last week, Harrison Graham and I want to say it was last Tuesday, so about 8 days ago, we asked you guys, how hot is Jason Kidd's seat? And mind you, this was after the Mavericks had won 7 in a row. So we were like, I think it was significantly less hot than it was at the beginning of the season. Now, I think it may be hotter than it was at the beginning of the season. If I had to scale it on a 1 to 10, I would say he's probably at like a 6.5 or a 7 right now. The coaching adjustments from Jason Kidd have just frankly been non-existent over this stretch, and that's been proven on the defensive end because I believe they've given up at least 120 in their 3 straight losses right now. And Jason Kidd prides himself on coaching the defensive end. When he first came to Dallas in his first season, he said all he wants to do is for the Mavericks to guard. He doesn't care how they play on offense. He just wants them to guard, and the rest will take care of itself. He said that last season when the Mavericks were struggling on defense with the guys like Christian Wood, Luka Doncic, and everyone else. And then he's saying it once again that all he wants the Mavericks to do is guard. Well, the Mavericks aren't guarding, and they've been one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. Now, they've played stretches where they have been a top 12, maybe even a top 10 defensive team, but they never do it on a consistent night-to-night basis. And if this team doesn't find their groove on the defensive end, they'll never be able to be a contender in this Western Conference. When you have to compete with the likes of Denver, with the likes of the LA Clippers, you're going to have to guard at some point, and right now, this team isn't guarding. Jason Kidd, I think, is in a little bit of trouble with his job. I know Mark Cuban is very loyal to his guys, almost to a fault. Thing is, Mark Cuban's not running the show anymore. It's the Adelson family. It's Patrick Dumont who is officially calling the shots as Mavericks owner. So who knows what he's thinking? If Mark Cuban was the owner, I would say Jason Kidd's job is 100% safe, but he's not. So I'm not sure if it is or not. Do you think, though, that this is Jason Kidd's last season as Mavericks head coach? Type Y for yes, type N for no down in the comments section. I don't know, man. If this team doesn't get out of the play-in and they just kind of limp to the finish line, I could see some major changes happening. I know Nico Harrison doesn't want to rock the boat like that, but if they have to do it, they have to do it. So let me know down in the comments, Y for yes, N for no. Is this the final season for Jason Kidd as Mavericks head coach. And that'll be it for today's show. Be sure to subscribe to the channel once again. It's youtube.com/MavericksTV and hit that thumbs up icon so I know you're a real one.